Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be chatting about ADHD and impulse control, which, if you are the parent of a kiddo with ADHD, you'll know that this one is a biggie. Impulsive behavior is basically when we act really quickly with no thought to the consequences. So, for a kiddo who's struggling with impulse control, they're not going to look at this bowl of candy and go, oh, it'll give me a tummy ache, or mom said no more, or that's my sister's candy. The part of the brain that helps with impulse control is the prefrontal cortex, the frontal lobe. Impulse control is that little voice that says, are you sure this is a good idea? With ADHD, that voice can be very quiet, which makes things tricky. Impulses are basically an automatic, unplanned reaction to a stimulus. So, for example, we have a situation. I'm in my sister's room. Oh, our attention then focuses on her bowl of candy. The appraisal is, that's my favorite type of candy. And the reaction is, I'm going to eat that candy. Another example, a kiddo in a park. So the situation is that they're in the park. The attention is, oh, look at that slide. The appraisal is, I love slides that go straight down. And the response is, I'm going to push in front of the other kids and go on that slide right now. So, anywhere in the impulse control cycle, we can actually stop that impulse and go, I think I'm going to do something different. But the reality is, the earlier on that we intervene in that cycle, the easier. So let's look at different types of impulse control strategies. The first is situation selection. So basically, choosing the environment that we put ourselves in or choosing what's in our environment. Another one is situation modification. So I am in this environment. How do I shift it? How do I change elements of the environment? Another one is attention deployment. So, how do I distract myself? How do I do something else until the impulse passes? And then the next one is cognitive reappraisal, inner self talk, talking yourself through the situation. Very hard. Even if we don't have ADHD, even if we have a fully formed prefrontal cortex, really difficult. So, examples would be, I just won't buy candy. I'm not going to bring candy into my environment. Or if we're going to modify what's in that environment, we'll say, I'm going to put the candy on the top shelf, out of sight, out of mind. The next one is attention deployment. If I think about the candy, I'm just going to move my attention and do something else until I forget about it. And then I've stopped that impulse. Cognitive reappraisal would be basically willpower, self talk, where we go, I'm not going to have any candy because it doesn't make me feel good. So for anybody who's been around a kid with ADHD, will know that that attentional deployment and that cognitive reappraisal are really difficult. It comes with time. It's a muscle that's built over time. But if we can intervene earlier on in the cycle, it's so much better for our kiddos. So that's where we either shift the environment or change what's in that environment already. Situational strategies are highly proactive, and the research shows that they're also highly effective. I love this quote by James Clear. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. We tend to believe that our habits are a product of our motivation, talent, and effort. Certainly, these qualities matter, but the surprising thing is, especially over a long time period, your personal characteristics tend to get overpowered by your environment. So, if we're looking at human behavior, impulse control specifically today, we need to start with our environment. What can we do with our child's environment to be able to help them to be the very best version of themselves? Willpower alone doesn't change behavior. It's all about creating small, sustainable habits. James Clear, who that quote was from, wrote Atomic Habits. It's brilliant. He suggests that when we want to make a change, we follow four rules. The first is to make it obvious. The second is to make it attractive. The third is to make it easy. And the fourth is to make it satisfying. So, for example, if we want to get our kid to hang up their jackets, just like in the picture here, what we're going to do is we're going to put a coat hook right by the front door. We're going to make it attractive by maybe personalizing the space for them. We're going to make it easy so that they can actually hang it on the hook. And then we're going to make it satisfying by saying to them the next day, look at that. Nobody fought today. Your jacket's exactly where it needs to be, and we're going to be on time. This is great. Another thing that James Clear talks about is stacking behaviors. So if we have one behavior we do already and we want to form a new habit, we stack it on that old behavior. So for example, if your kiddo always runs in and puts their book bag down in a certain place, then we put the coat hook right above where they always put their book bag. That way we're creating a more sustainable habit for our kiddos. Research strongly suggests that our kids with ADHD do really well in situations that have explicit expectations and lots of frequent feedback. Okay, so here are some examples of other situational strategies. I'm going to sit further away from my buddy so that we don't get into trouble together. I'm going to write my to-do list on brightly colored pieces of paper or post-its so that I don't lose them. I'll use an app to block the internet when I'm trying to focus. I'll put my gym shoes by the door so I don't forget them. I'll charge my iPad in the kitchen so I'm not distracted at night and tempted to go on it. I will not bring slime into the house. And I'm not going to take things that I love to the park. Okay, so start to think at home, what are small shifts and changes that we can make in the environment? When it comes to school, there are some things that we may not think about that absolutely impact our child's ability to control their impulses. The first would be chairs. When we have those hard, uncomfortable traditional school desks, particularly the ones where the chair is attached to the desk, we know that it hampers the blood supply to the nervous system. When the vertebral area is strained, our kids are more likely to feel tired. They're more likely to feel pain. They're more likely to emotionally dysregulate and have issues with academic performance. Our kids need chairs that they can manipulate, that they can bounce on, that they can move around. So if a kid is struggling, have a look at those chairs. Temperature is another one that we often don't think about. Temperature impacts our students' ability to learn. When temperatures are not ideal, what we end up seeing is that the brain receives all these constant signals going readjust, 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 which takes up mental space. The research shows us that kids do better in cooler classrooms. The cooler the classroom, the more focused they are, the more receptive they are, and the more relaxed they are. The research varies, but generally we see that the optimal temperature is around 21 degrees Celsius. Another one is lighting. We all know that we do better in natural sunlight. In fact, in classrooms where there are fluorescent lights, our children often have a hard time controlling impulses. We see more daydreaming, we see more fidgeting because that humming and the flickering of the lights increases cortisol in their body. Same thing goes for noise. In noisier classrooms, our kids exhibit stress responses. Cortisol goes up, they have a harder time controlling impulses. So helping our kiddos to get outside or creating spaces where they can actually regulate is incredibly important. Environment is so powerful. Take a look around your own house and ask, what's a shift that we could make to help my kiddo? Instead of focusing on the child, let's have a look at the environment and ask what changes we can make in the environment. If they're struggling at school, ask yourself, does this actually have to do with the chairs, the temperature, the noise, the classrooms? Is there too much going on in the classrooms? Our kids with ADHD do better in simple classrooms with less visual clutter. And if you're ready, choose one new habit. Start small, be patient. You're going to need to repeat it again and again and again. But when our kids get it right, we build their competency muscle. It's often those small changes that lead to an absolute cascade of wellness. If you want more information on ADHD, we have a really wonderful 6-hour workshop called ADHD From Struggling to Thriving. It's linked in the description below. For more parenting tips, make sure to follow us on Instagram or Facebook. And if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. We'd love to hang out some more.